I would venture to say that the financial waste of literal lack of attention with digital marketing would far outweigh the 20 billion in fraud waste. The vast majority of digital ads have less than 2.5 seconds of attention. And that's a number I feel we should be caring a lot more about, whether you're focused on building brand awareness or you're looking for clicks and conversions.
Hello, and welcome to The Marketing Architects, a research-first podcast dedicated to answering your toughest marketing questions. I'm Elena Hengel. I run the marketing team here at Marketing Architects, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Angela Voss, our CEO, and Rob DeMars, our Chief Product Architect.
Howdy, howdy, everybody.
Hello.
We're back with our thoughts on some recent marketing news, always trying to root our opinions in data, research, and what drives business results. Our topic for today is digital advertising effectiveness. We're going to talk about what digital channels are popular, which should you lean into if you want to prioritize effectiveness, what are creative best practices in digital, what channels work especially well when combined with digital, and even some watchouts every marketer should be aware of if you are investing in digital, which is basically all of us. So let's go ahead and start, as we always do, with the research. This week, I want to highlight an article from WARC titled The Third Age of Effectiveness: Why Digital Advertising is Finally Becoming Effective. This article was written by Sam Pena-Taylor, and it's a summary of a panel featuring some famous names in marketing effectiveness, including Tom Roach, Les Binet, and Grace Kite. The article sets the stage by talking about this seismic shift we've had over the past 20 years from proven brand-building channels like TV, radio, and print to new digital platforms like Facebook and Google. And according to the panelists, this shift occurred despite not really knowing how to make the most out of digital. In fact, according to Les Binet, one of the damaging legacies of digital marketing is attribution modeling, which favors short-term performance and punishes creativity. And here's some data to back that up. According to Data to Decisions and DDB, attribution techniques overestimate the business effects of search by a factor of 2, and underestimate the impact of TV by a factor of 10. However, it's not all doom and gloom. There's a general movement in advertising back towards the long term, and some digital channels do have the brand building chops to support that trend. Digital channels with video, for example, really stand out. In the words of Tom Roach, video is to brand building what water is to life on Earth. According to analytics partners, video's lasting impact is twice as long as non-video. And if we were to rank digital channels by effectiveness with the data available to us today, streaming TV would lead the way in short and long-term effectiveness, followed by digital video, and then social.
All video channels, right? That's the common thread. Streaming video, digital video, social. And actually, we're talking about digital channels today, but the other video channel that ranks at the top is linear television.
Yeah.
That's kind of our bread and butter. As you can see, this is not all scripted here. This is real activity. No. So the data is pretty clear about the effectiveness of the medium. You definitely need to do it well in order to get the best outcome, which we can talk about a little later. But broadly, video is the clear winner in terms of driving sales. To your point, Elena, both immediate and long-term.
Right. Not just our opinion. And I sincerely apologize for missing that question.
Throw you off.
So now we've established that digital can align with marketing effectiveness principles. There are just certain channels and formats that work better than others. Video is one of those. And we are going to talk about just best practices for creative within those digital channels. But first, I did some digging into where marketers are currently investing their dollars within digital. And I thought it'd be interesting to share some of the data, since it does not exactly match with what we just learned is most effective. eMarketer is my favorite source for any kind of forecast, so credit to their team for these numbers. But let's start with just digital ad spending in general. This year, in the US alone, $264 billion will be spent on digital advertising. That is projected to grow to nearly $400 billion by 2027. Traditional media ad spending, on the other hand, is about $90 billion this year, and is projected to drop to $84 billion by 2027. So, Ange, Rob, now it's my turn to ask a question. I thought it would be fun, mostly for me, to host a quick pop quiz on digital ad spending. So my first question for both of you is, how much do you think is spent per internet user in the United States per year on digital advertising.
Elena, can I ask one question? Did the train leave the station at 3 o'clock and arrive at 4? Like, I'm not good at word problems.
Okay.
Randomly guess, and then I'm going to say $29.95, and I'm going to turn over to Angela for the right
thanks,
answer.
Rob. Thanks. Okay, so $264 billion you said was spent on digital advertising. And we're talking about internet users, which has to be the vast majority of the US population, right? Like my 2-year-old niece is an internet user in front of her iPad. So we have to be only excluding babies, non-connected, elderly, low income. So maybe there's 310 million users. Okay, hold on. Siri, what's 264 billion divided by 310 million?
The answer is approximately 851.6129.
850 I'm going with.
Oh my gosh. See, this is why Anne just CEO. It's $868. That's so amazing. That's really close. I was not expecting.
You are such a nerd.
That's actually so impressive.
I didn't know we could use Siri. Otherwise, I would have probably been a lot closer.
Sure.
Yeah, Mr. $29. So, yes, $868 this year. Andrew, so close. And $1,248 by 2027. So, quite expensive. All right.
Yeah.
Second question, Rob, I think you can get closer to this one. Who are the 3 leading companies in terms of digital ad revenue?
The 3 leading companies. Gosh, well, I'm going to have to go with, I would probably go with Google and YouTube, but they're the same company. So I'll go with Google and Facebook and X.
Amazon's got to be in there, right? Maybe Amazon, Google. I would include YouTube as a part of Google and Meta. Yeah.
Yep. And wins. Once again, Rob, you got some of them though. It's Google, Meta, and Amazon. They're at 71, 51, and 34 billion respectively. And fun fact, Instacart, Walmart, and Apple are the 3 companies with the fastest ad revenue growth in 2023. Facebook will hold steady with barely any growth, just 0.1% growth. And both Snapchat and X are going backwards in growth.
Drama over there.
Right. Some other just stats I thought were interesting when we're looking at digital. By device, mobile has the most spend, then desktop, which is less than half of mobile, and then connected TV is third with less than half of desktop. And one other thing that I just find wild, by format, display is the biggest digital channel with 147 billion in revenue, which is mostly made up of banner ads, but also includes rich media and video, followed by search at 110 billion.
I agree with you. That is shocking. The display outranks search. All right, Rob. So I'm going to ask you a question then. I know you're an early riser. I know. He's like, I'm not coming back to this podcast. You guys just lost one of your co-hosts.
Oh, another word problem.
I know you're an early riser. What time did you log onto your computer today?
4:30.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. I didn't think it was going to be that early.
Fantastic.
You've been online for almost 10 hours, 10 hours. In that time, I would assume you've been doing more browsing than working, but let's just, for the argument's sake, we're doing both. Do you think you were just served a display ad during that time? And can you recall, if you did, what any of them were?
I'm sure that I was. I got to really think about this now. I did see something for the John Wick wallet that caught my attention. I like John Wick. I don't know. It was like a John Wick wallet, but I didn't click on anything.
I just like the memory piece of display marketing and just being able to recall even what I mean, there's so much distraction, right? When you're online, and there's a lot of research evidence that display lags behind video in terms of effectiveness. And I think that just most of us would agree, even anecdotally, that based on our own experience with display marketing, that evidence makes sense. I just can't recall even remembering.
Totally. We condition
or
ourselves.
Much less clicking.
We condition ourselves not to look at those. And if anything, I'm kind of scared to click on display ads because I feel like I'm going to get scammed.
Remarketing gets me sometimes. I think that's where maybe it makes sense.
I can't remember a single display ad I saw today. I can't believe Rob actually had one come to mind.
You haven't seen the John Wick wallet? It looks pretty badass.
I wanted to wrap up with one last piece of data we might find interesting, which is that video ad spend will be $84 billion this year, which, despite it being the most effective kind of digital ad, is less than 32% of all digital ad spending. So maybe something to consider if you're spending more on display than video. So I wanted to move on. And you mentioned the evidence around display advertising effectiveness. I think it's worth mentioning that there are some other general watchouts in digital that marketers should be aware of. So to start, according to Peter Field, digital advertising has negatively impacted the law of excess share of voice, which is a principle of advertising that states a brand's share of voice or their proportion of advertising in a category is correlated with their share of market. So if your share of voice is larger than your share of market, you achieve an excess share of voice, and that typically correlates with growth. And according to Field, digital has made this harder to spot for a few reasons. It's harder to measure attention from digital platforms since the value of an impression varies widely by device, user, website, etc. Walled gardens like Facebook started guarding advertiser data, making attention harder to evaluate. And these same platforms encourage performance marketing above all else, which can work against brand building principles. I also think it's worth mentioning ad fraud because that is a huge problem in digital. And according to the ANA, $20 billion of digital spend is unaccounted for every year due to fraud.
Yeah, that's insane.
Wow.
I really feel that all media, when done well, has value, right? You have to crack that nut on what's the right strategy. It's about understanding the space and the inner workings and the challenges of each medium. But I agree, like fraud is one area that impacts digital a lot more than other traditional mediums. And it gets a lot of press, and rightfully so. But going back to even what you said about Field's position regarding how digital advertising has negatively impacted the law of excess share of voice, in that case, he's talking about just being able to even track impressions, not attention of those impressions. And I would venture to say that the financial waste of literal lack of attention with digital marketing, back to the point of display and things like that, would far outweigh the 20 billion in fraud waste. The vast majority of digital ads have less than 2.5 seconds of attention. And that's a number I feel we should be caring a lot more about, whether you're focused on building brand awareness or you're looking for clicks and conversions. We're all in the game of sales. And if our creatives are falling on deaf ears or on blind eyes, that's on us, right? Ad fraud feels a bit more challenging to solve, but how do we, within the realm of our own control, ensure that every impression delivers impact?
Right. We should definitely do an episode on attention at some point, because that could be a whole new topic. But you mentioned creative.
That'd be great because you lost my attention.
No. Rude. Let's move on with my transition, which is, speaking of creative, let's get to the fun part, which Rob is going to entertain us all by telling us what marketers should consider when they're producing creative for digital.
Right. Well, I don't know how entertaining these are, but I do have 4 ideas in terms of considerations you want to think about when doing digital. I've leaned these a little bit more towards video because obviously we have a lot of experience in video, and I think there's some interesting things to keep in mind. First and foremost, all digital platforms are not created equal. And I know that's pretty obvious. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, they're all a little different in terms of how they behave. YouTube and Facebook in particular allows for in-stream ads, much like a commercial break. So you can get a lot more contextual with the ads so they can complement the program, versus something like TikTok are all independent pieces of video. You can't insert in between. So that's obviously a big consideration there. 2, when you're planning on shooting digital assets for television, make sure that you're filming it in a way that it can be cropped for mobile. So remember, television is generally 16:9, mobile is 9:16. So if you want to make the most of your creative assets, keep that in mind in terms of how you're framing your shots. 3, I think from a television standpoint, audio is super important. And I think we've quoted the statistic in the past that 60% of all TV commercials are heard and not seen. So audio plays a huge role. It's actually the opposite in digital, because audio people can opt out on in terms of digital ads. So making sure your visuals are as thumb-stopping as possible is a key consideration. And then lastly, and one that's dear to my heart, and I think that digital really shines in this area, is test, test, test. I mean, we're all experts in our opinion, but man, in digital, you don't just A/B test, you can A, B, C, D, E, F, G test. So make sure you're looking at all the different variables, grabbers, colors, banners, offer, and those learnings can be applied to your other channels as well. So that's one thing that digital really, really has going for it.
Rob, you mentioned that TV is traditionally, what is it, 16 by 9 and digital's 9 by 16?
Correct.
I've seen a lot of ads recently that they look like they were shot on mobile, right? More and more on TV. How do you feel about those types of ads creatively?
Yeah, I think that if it makes sense for the product, if you're trying to give it a little bit of a young mobile feel, I tend to see those in a lot of younger audience ads because they're trying to meet them where it's at and they experience, that kind of framing in for most of the day. Why not repeat that on the television set? I don't know if that's a reverse strategy where they are leaning in with digital first and then going, hey, let's test some television ads, or if it's more of an art direction type choice that's being made. But I'm for it as long as it makes sense for the intent of the ad.
Well, speaking of television, it wouldn't be an episode of this podcast if we didn't mention the value of traditional marketing channels like TV. And the good news for our digital marketing friends is that traditional channels only make digital channels work harder. So, Ange, what are the best combinations of traditional and digital marketing channels?
Yeah, there's a lot of research on this too. When you look at the incremental improved ROI from combined communication synergies, you'll find that the combination of TV and online video will lift ROI by roughly 35% on average. And then the combination of TV and paid search will lift ROI by 25%. Those are the top two synergies to seek a lift from. But of course, marketing often get stuck in this top of funnel versus bottom of funnel debate, which is just missing the big picture to guide that better strategy with those two working together. So it's helpful to research and test how a mix of traditional and digital strategies can help improve overall business results.
And we've seen that with our own clients too, right? When we launch TV, kind of rises all boats. So their other channels end up performing a bit more efficiently too.
Absolutely.
Well, we've covered a lot in this episode, and hopefully it's been helpful. Digital is massive, and it's an essential marketing channel, important to get it right. And we all know that digital works. So, and Rob, to bring us home, I thought it would be fun to ask you, what was the last thing that you purchased from a digital ad?
Ooh, good question. Ange, how about you?
I never click on display marketing. Like if I do, it's an accident. Even when I'm remarketed, I will go around the display ad and back to the website, but I do click on paid search ads from time to time. And I think probably the last time I did it was maybe for concert tickets.
What concert?
I was looking for tickets for Olivia Rodrigo for my daughter, my teenage daughter, but all sold out, so no cigar there.
I was going to say, Ange, if you need a babysitter, I will go to that concert.
I kind of have an unusual one. I bought a 55-gallon steel drum.
What?
The kind the mob put a body in, I bought one of those. It was Amazon must have been remarketing to me, but I needed a steel drum to burn stuff. Burn a bunch of yard waste.
The amount of information that I learn about you, Rob, in one podcast episode is just remarkable. Just when we think we know you. Steel drums and digital display.
It's funny, we all had them from different places. Mine's from Instagram. I did buy something off an Instagram ad, which I don't often do, but I was targeted with a baseball cap that was a Succession theme. If anyone watched Succession, It says, "I am the eldest boy," in all caps, and I got it from my cousin, who's the oldest. If I wasn't a middle child, I would have bought it for myself. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. So just to wrap up here, we covered a lot of different things when it comes to digital advertising. We talked about digital advertising effectiveness, how it is a channel you can lean into for marketing effectiveness, which is good news for all of us that want to balance the short and long term. We talked about popular digital channels. Probably the most important takeaway there is that what's most popular is not always most effective. We talked about creative best practices, and Rob walked us through what we should be thinking about there. And then we also talked about watchouts with ad fraud and ended by talking about what channels work best when combined with digital, which, happy for us to know, is a lot of television. That's it for this episode of The Marketing Architects. We'd like to thank Ayana Claphockey for producing the show and Michael Hingle for editing. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, and if you find our show valuable, please leave us a rating and review. Now go forth and build great marketing.
I did almost buy that John Wick wallet.
What is a John Wick wallet?
I don't even know.
John Wick has a wallet. It's gotta be
who's
awesome.
John Wick?
Shut up.
No,
I actually
I'm
know
not.
who John Wick is.
I don't know who that
Shut
is.
Right?
Keanu Reeves. There's only been 4 movies.
Oh.
So, I mean, it's Keanu Reeves doing karate.